What up, though? And welcome to this week's Renaissance Man podcast. This is going to be a special one because I'm about trying to stay fly. And the first thing I always acknowledge when we talk about the purpose of this show, the first word that comes out of my mouth is fashion. And I'm really pleased to have one of the industry tastemakers joining me on the program today. Please welcome my brother, Joe La Puma. What up, though?
Jalen, thank you so much for having me. And thanks for those words. Really appreciate it coming from a trendsetter from you.
Thank
a trendsetter
you,
like you, I should say.
Thank you. I appreciate the love. And I mentioned that you're a sneaker aficionado. Of course, there are a lot of other things in your life that make you tick. But I want to ask you about the kicks.
Okay.
What was the story of the first pair of kicks you actually purchased?
My first pair of sneakers. So what happened back in the day is that my parents allowed me to get one good pair a year. And it was the good pair, but it was the good pair of the year, but it had to last the whole year, which is like, it's a positive. It's one pair of sneakers could be rough, but when you get the one good pair, it's a plus. So the one that I remember the Jordan 6 infrared, the white and pink, which is interesting now because I do not wear white sneakers. For some reason, I just don't wear white sneakers anymore, but I think that was like one of the first good ones. Another one going into 9th grade, the Air Max 97 Silver Bullet with the air bubble that was so elongated. And those I remember, and it really was the Jason Kidds, the Penny Hardaways. They did a good job of getting me one per year. It had to last. And then if I used a birthday or Christmas gift for another pair, that was it. But I was always into sneakers. Always.
You're also the host and creator of Sneaker Shopping. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
Tell me the story of how the show was started and created.
Sure. So basically, I think it was 2010. I'm bad with dates because we've done so many episodes, and we actually did one and then we stopped. So 2010, Jim Jones was doing press, and Jim Jones, this is
Capo.
Yeah, Capo, when like Ballin' was big, and he was trying to follow it up, and I think we gave him a cover. And Jim, he is he is such a good personality that you put Jim on camera, you're gonna get great stuff. So it's like, I call it the faux pilot episode. It's in Flight Club in New York City. Fans are in the store. I don't think him and I are mic'd up. There's one camera, and it's kind of this all over the place type of shoot. And it's him and I, and we go sneaker shopping. He got the DMP Jordan 6s, and then it went online for his album cycle, and we forgot about it. And we never thought about doing it consistently. And then Wale there's an interesting story in 2013. Wale got left off of the albums list, and it was a very contentious top 50 album list. Wale is super passionate, felt like he was on the list, and it was kind of like this media thing with him and Complex. And I always respected him, and we all know, is such a big sneakerhead.
Yes.
So there was this riff online, and I pitched it to his publicist, me being at Complex for a few years and people knowing that I work at Complex, and me being a fan of Wale, and us kind of having that mutual sneaker connection. Let's do the sneaker shopping thing in Miami. We did it at LeBron's store at Unknown, and it'll just show that we're okay on camera. He even makes a joke about a subtle joke. And that was 2014. And then Nick Young was doing press, and it was only 3, Jalen, at that point. And slowly but surely we built up. And for the past, I think 4 years, we've been doing 36 to 42 episodes a year. Yeah, it's been a lot.
That is crushing them.
It's been a lot.
And for those who haven't gotten a chance to experience sneaker shopping, can you let them know the magic of the show? What do you guys, what makes you guys tick?
What I like is that everyone has a specific sneaker story, and it relates. Everyone's is different. One thing that I hate that sometimes about the show, it's not a sneaker quiz at all. It's how it could be any sneakers that you grew up on. It's just about kind of the personality through fashion and clothes, but also how the first good pair made you feel, how the worst pair you had made you feel. Maybe you got made fun of. Maybe you accidentally bought fakes. We have celebrities who are like, I got for fakes. All these stories are different. They shape kind of what people think of now. Lil Yachty got sold fakes and got laughed at in middle school, I think. And now if you see, he has every sneaker, and he goes back and it just tells the story full circle. So what I love about the show is that it's the questions are pretty basic, but you get personality through footwear, and it's not a sneaker quiz. We kind of tangentially relate fashion to sneakers.
And being a sneaker fan and an athlete, I guess those is like almost like being a DJ and almost being a dancer, because
Yes.
It's like you're doing both. And when you brought up getting a fake pair before, that reminded me of when I wanted my mother to get me some snakeskin Adidas.
Yeah.
And she brought home some NBAs.
Oof.
And in her mind, like, I'm going to the NBA one day. I'm saying I'm going to play basketball, that type of thing. But then I wore them like that, and then they clown me by calling them never bought Adidas.
Oh, man. Well, I have an interesting story about fakes, too. The Tiffany Dunk in the early 2000s was my favorite. It was my grail, and I missed out on it at my skate shop. Someone from Complex, who doesn't work there anymore, is like, I have a pair, and sold it to me for a good price, and they ended up being fake. Someone like on the home team, like, so we recently shot in LA in like in November, mid-November, and there was a Tiffany Dunk on the store that we were on the shelf of the store that we were shooting at. And I just kept looking at it the whole week. We did like 5 shoots, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to splurge and get this. I got a good price on it, but the fake shoes, it's, you get caught sometimes. Everyone has gotten caught, I think, in their life.
What is too much to pay for a pair of antique or classic kicks? Like,
it's
once you become a parent, it seems like that conversation changes. And you mentioned getting things for a nice price. So just give me some price points.
Well, I went back, so it's all relative and I'm not into cars. I'm into sneakers. I'm not even into like my entertainment system at the apartment isn't that great. You know what I mean? And like, I look at it and I'm like, oh, they could be better. And it's not that I'm pushing everything into sneakers, but for instance, The Last Dance comes out and we see Jordan wearing all the shoes, and we've seen Jalen, we see it on the shelves every time we're in a mall or every time I'm shooting. And you just remember how cool he made these classics look. And I was like 2 when the 1985 Jordan 1s came out. So I'm just looking and I'm like, this guy made these shoes look so amazing. Then 3 weeks ago, I'm in Atlanta, and Yachty has one of the best 1985 Jordan 1 collections. I think Yachty's 23. He was nowhere near when these came out, but he went back, and these kids on Instagram are sourcing these vintage sneakers. And I'm looking at these for like 6 hours, and the Jordan 185s are exploding. I think like you could get them for like $4,000 and up at the lowest.
Whoa,
yeah, which is crazy. But
that is a car.
Someone gave me a good price. I got them sourced. A 20-year-old kid. These kids on Instagram are sourcing them. I got them for like $1,500, which is a lot, but it's relative in price, and it's just a collector's item. And people love like $700 bottles of wine sometimes. I'm not into that. I right. kind of I'm into this.
Yes, we all have our vices.
Yeah.
And you fell in love with the shoe game. And so you just showed me that classic Jordan. And unfortunately for me, I was a member of the Pacers when you were enjoying Last Dance and watching him wear those shoes and
right
from the playoffs. His feet were bleeding, rocking those kicks.
Yes.
So for you, having the range of understanding how the shoe games was different then and how the shoes were just made different. Like, I wore Chuck Taylors, and it's like walking on the ground.
I know.
And so now with the technology and the price points, where do you see this going?
I think that the technology is going to keep improving. I think the signature athletes, though, have to get as involved as possible. We saw, you know what it reminds me of? The Nike Hyper Adapts that lace themselves. I think they tried it, and I think the technology was amazing, but you don't see many players wearing it. So I think that sometimes we get into too much tech for functionality isn't the best bet. But I do think that brands are tech first. They'll always say that. And where like our audience, and you talked about in the beginning, like getting fly and things like that is how they look. I think that brands and companies are always going to say that they are tech first and try to always improve it. Now there's running sneakers. I think running is the best kind of example of the technology that has come out in the past few years, like the Alpha Fly. There's all these great training shoes. But to think about a Chuck Taylor and how far we've came from these signature models and these on-court basketball shoes, it's always improving, and the trajectory of tech is always going up. But it's about finding kind of like that wearable tech and not trying to overdo it. In my vantage point, you know, I'm not a professional basketball player, but we've come. What about the Nike Dunk? The Nike Dunk, like,
love the Dunk, the Michigan one, the
I
Iowa.
swear, I'm not trying to butter you up. I try, but like,
that's classic.
Therese was just, talking about these colors, and it's like the substantial staying power of these shoes. And you guys, when he dropped the shoes in the locker room, and you're like, listen, no disrespect, we need the good ones. We need the good ones. Exactly.
Correct. We want the high price champagne. We want the cognac. Where's the Louis the 15th? Don't be bringing us what we consider these dock shoes. Right. No, we want the power forward 260 pounds. Don't give us those. Where's the balance though? When you find yourself thinking that something's fashionable because you like the way it looks, versus it being popular. Because I can't front. Like I was looking at Kim rocking Kanye's new line. And I wanted to get into it. She had on the bikini, and I looked at the shoes.
Those slippers, right?
Yeah.
Those Crocs.
I was like, I thought they were ugly.
It's obviously it's like, to each his own. People love those shoes though.
Correct.
Complex put them on the top 10 of the year in 2020. And Complex has a big sneaker. It's not just me, obviously. You were on Full Size Run with those guys. Great episode. And we're going back and forth. And they were like, well, I was like, is this a top 10 sneaker? And the audience was like, guys, is this really a top 10 sneaker? And they were like, it wasn't. Fat Joe also said it on the panel. Like, this isn't a sneaker. This is like a Croc. This is like a Croc.
Yes.
This is a slipper. So footwear takes many forms. But what I would say, you're basically talking about hype versus quality. Thing about me that I have a lot of sneakers that, you could put now, the Michigan Dunk is kind of hyped now, even though it's a classic. But like going out to dinner now before the pandemic, you know what I used to wear? And I still wear out to dinner, like, and maybe it surprises people, black and white Nike Cortezes or some old New Balances, just because pulling up to dinner sometimes in like the shoes that people expect me to maybe wear because I wear it on the show. Like, I like those classics. And I think that if you have a mix, I always say like the top 5 sneakers to build around is a Nike Cortez, an Adidas Stan Smith, an Air Force One, a Jordan, and then a running shoe of your choice, and start with those 5 and then build up. And of course the hype shoes are the ones that everyone goes crazy over, but there are still like $90 to $150 shoes that you could pull off, and they're classics. Classics never die.
Absolutely. You'll appreciate this. The theme for this episode is good shoes take you places.
Yes.
Sneakers in your hit show have taken you to new heights, and congratulations. What is something you'd like to accomplish next in your life outside of the world of shoes?
Wow, that's a good question. It's for me, it's about kind of, basically, like, you don't want to be known as just the sneaker guy. You want to inspire people, and you want to inspire people the right way, and you want to build off the audience, it's like you want to activate the audience to do things, this audience that you've built over here to do things. And I think now more than ever, it's about focusing on the next step and maybe creating the next product that is more serviceable. You know, one thing that I really liked about last season is that we had Jaden Smith on the show, and he donated 300 pairs of sneakers to Skid Row for his deals with New Balance. It was really, really great. And you know, we had the vice president Kamala Harris on an episode, and James Whitner, who, I don't know, you guys, it would be great if you guys had him on here. He basically is a retail mogul, and he owns over, I think, 18 sneaker stores. And he just, he helped set up the whole thing. And we donated 21 pairs of extremely rare Converse made basically only for the vice president to an HBCU. And that felt really special. It felt really special because the kids are obviously interested in the eye candy and the sneakers, but I think that, to answer your question in a broad way, it's like getting them in somewhere and then venturing out in a way that does more than just the eye candy.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm the founder of a charter high school, and it's extremely important that we have sports and we have extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
You want the young people to be passionate about learning, but to your point, you still want to give them other hooks that may interest them.
Yeah.
To finally catch their ear.
Yes.
And then once you catch their ear, hopefully you can get in their mind, and then that'll get them listening to what you actually have to say.
Exactly. You bring them in, and then you know, you try to put as much of the important stuff as possible in front of them.
And you guys been crushing it. You have so many great guests on the show. Like, who's somebody that you enjoyed or surprised you the most?
Who I say is like my favorite, because I've had comedians on the show. You know this guy. I'm pretty sure you know this guy. I've had Chris Rock on the show. I've had Kevin Hart on the show. We've had like younger comedians like Pete Davidson, Jalen, JB Smoove.
That's my man.
JB Smoove. I'm like, this show is not scripted. I did not give you questions before. I did not tell you I'm sure he didn't even watch the show. And you as a basketball fan, he talks about like Michael and Pippen and stuff like that. And he's a big Knicks guy. That episode, it wasn't the biggest episode. I loved him off of Curb Your Enthusiasm and as a comedian, but that episode, I just left thinking comedians' minds are so sharp. And this guy was just, it didn't surprise me because I knew he was so funny, but to have it on the spot, I was like, it's one of my favorite episodes. And you know, we've had other people that the kids may know more, but to me, that is like pound for pound my favorite episode. I still watch it. I'm like, I can't believe he was this quick. I can't believe it.
I appreciate you going deeper into the box score. I actually did an episode with him on Fresh Off the Boat. And I found myself, you know, I'm closer to 50 than 40, but paying attention to more of the people that started to come up at the same time I was coming up. And you fall into that category as well.
Yeah.
And so like rooting for those people that you have like multiple different jobs. It's like, oh, I remember he was doing that. I remember she was doing that. And so JB Smoove is one of those people for me. And he's hilarious, man. Like,
oh my goodness.
He got next. He got next.
You know, JB Smoove, he was talking about like basketball fundamentals. And I was like, look at you, you know all this stuff. You should be a basketball coach. He goes, I am a coach. I'm a life coach, you know? So just that one was great.
Yeah, I love that guy. And also too, I wanted to give you props because you're the senior VP of content strategy at Complex. That's a huge deal. That looks good on the business card.
Yeah.
Tell us more about this role and how you manage your job and still host your own show.
So the show I was never supposed to be on camera. Never.
Breaking news.
Yeah, I was never supposed to be on camera.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's like a journey through media history, but it really, I'll break it down as quick as possible. So basically I got hired as the online editor in 2006 after interning. And I loved the Complex magazine. They had all these converging artists on the cover, and I was in college and I used to go, I thought the magazine was like bi-weekly. It was bi-monthly. I would go to the bookstore and be like, oh, is a new one out? Is a new one out? And then when I would get it, I'd be like, this is the magazine for me. So I got the internship. And after 2 years of interning, I was working at the Finish Line. I was working at the Finish Line, and then I got the internship. So I was doing 2 days at Complex and then 4 at the Finish Line. But I got hired as the online editor eventually. And I was like, oh, this is amazing, but I want to work for the magazine. Online, complex.com is great. And some people who knew were like, stick with online. Online is like the next thing. Like this internet thing is going to blow up. So basically, then when the magazine industry, we don't buy as many magazines as we did, the online became prevalent. And I helped teach like editors who were such better writers and editors than me, the lay of the land for online. And then once video took over and YouTube, we needed series. So the career kind of went like this in terms of strategy. And when I was talking about the Jim Jones thing, when we needed a programming slate, someone suggested it in passing. I was like, hey, why don't we do that sneaker shopping thing? And the rest is kind of history. That's the long, short story.
So since we're at new heights of sneaker popularity, and like for me, I'm from Detroit. I grew up, go to Northland Mall, try to cop me some top 10s, try to cop me some Ralph Samples, try to cop whatever, some Jingle Boots or whatever. But now that there's hype beast, there's resellers.
Yes.
Do you think that there's anything that can harm the sneaker culture?
I think that it's always changing. I think that obviously the releases are the point of contention now. How do they do it? They tried organized lineups. It didn't work. The raffles are kind of working, but then the sneakers app, you see it trending like the Nike sneakers app. It's very tough to get these sneakers. It's like limited. It's literally the definition of supply and demand. So what I would say is that the releases are always so get people worked up, and sometimes it really like brings the worst out of people, honestly. And I know back in I'm sure like back when you were coming up, they were like, it got even worse. And I think the releases are the thing that still to this day, and I don't have the answers. And like, these are the companies that the biggest companies in the world with some of the smartest people, and they're trying, but it still is very tough to figure out, because even though the violence, like there was just even 2 weeks ago, or last week, the Carmine Sixes, I believe, released, and there was like a thing in the middle of COVID. There was like almost like a stampede. Like it just is like the releases are very tough, and it's an ongoing process, and we'll see where it gets like in 5 to 10 years.
And I know you got to get out of here. I appreciate you taking the time. But before I let you go, I like to do a rapid fire segment called Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Let's get it.
Okay.
Most underrated sneaker of all time.
Air Zoom Citizen. It's an obscure sneaker. It's an obscure sneaker that I ran cross country in that Nike hasn't brought back in a decade and a half. And I posted it online, and I was like, man, Nike. And, like people sometimes when I'm like, these sneakers are, the kids are like, yeah, I posted it. Nike needs to bring these back. And Jalen, when I tell you, they were like, no, they don't. But I was like, it's like part of the Alpha Project, I believe. It's a classic Nike's runner that hasn't been retroed. It's I'll send maybe Corey the picture or something, but it's an awesome sneaker. So that's one of my favorite.
Something special about you. I ran cross country for 4 years in high school.
Nice.
4 years in high school. You're a UConn alum. Give me your favorite UConn basketball player of all time.
The easiest. Caron Butler by far. Caron Butler. I was young. I think he was only there for a year when I was there. He was the coolest. I was there for great players. I was there for Ben Gordon. I was there for Villanueva. I was there for Emeka Okafor. Caron Butler, maybe it was because I was young, but when he came in, I always tell him, I've been fortunate to see him. He came to the Complex office, and I'm like, Karan, I remember you came into the South Dining Hall and you had the snorkel with the fur on. And I was like, this guy is the coolest guy. And I've been fortunate in my career that I've got to chop it up with him. And now he's doing great things with the Heat. He by far, to me, is definitely my favorite UConn alum and the coolest basketball player that during my time.
And he was fresh too.
Yes.
I hope he had a sponsor. I hope he had a sponsor.
He had the Jordans before they were coming out. That's another thing. Like he had the Flint 13s, and he told me recently, he was like, "Oh, I was getting them from Queens because Connecticut, it's not that far." And he was like, "My man was hooking them up." I was like, "Karan, how'd you have the Jordans?" And he wore them on court before. He had them early and was wearing them on court.
What about a sneaker that every Renaissance woman should have in their collection?
I like I love the Adidas Stan Smith that we talked about. I think that, I think that everyone should own that, but Adidas Stan Smith, and the thing about the Adidas Stan Smith is like, people say it's a basic sneaker. It works everywhere for everyone. And like, I love that younger generation. Like I even with younger women, they can wear it. And even like someone like my mom could wear it and feel fresh. I love the Adidas Stan Smith.
2 more and I'll let you get out of here. Besides yourself, who has the best taste in shoes?
Oof. That's a tough one. Let me think.
Yeah, that's like Jay-Z or Nas right there. That's like
a tough one.
And
thank you for saying I have good taste. But there's, I would say the people who are influencing now, the younger generation, Travis Scott has great taste in sneakers, and no way am I comparing myself to these people. I think that I think that LeBron's tunnel footwear is great. I think who else? There's a bunch of like people who, my friend like Victor Cruz has a great sneaker collection. Yeah. Like people like that. There's people like that who, we love sneakers and so it's very big celebrities and I think also people on Instagram. I just love like people who are not famous. They have some taste, a lot of taste, I should say.
Well, I definitely appreciate you taking the time. And my final question is, in honor of Black History Month, which Black figure do you think should have a signature shoe?
Oof.
That's that right there.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'd have to. I thought you were going to ask who I would go to dinner with, and I had an answer.
Too easy. That's too easy.
Trying to think.
Because now you can think of the shoe, and you could create a look with it.
Yeah.
We've seen the Malcolm X shirts. Maybe we could have an X on the shoes, or something like.
I mean, you could say Malcolm X, of course, or Martin, like things like that, and people like that, figures like that. But I'm trying to think like sports related, but that's a tough one. I would have to think about that one, Jalen.
All right, I'll have you back on the show.
Yes, I want to give you the right answer and think about that.
Because you just saying that, to me, it sounds like Muhammad Ali. It sounds like something flow like a butterfly, like a bee.
Muhammad Ali would be amazing, and it would be amazing if like boxing, but also like UFC gets it too. Make it both. You know what I mean? That was a great suggestion, but I would think it would take like both of those for Muhammad Ali.
Well,
yeah.
Well, I definitely appreciate the love. Keep doing your thing. And those Michigan dunks right there are so cold.
Thanks, man.
You should know. My homeboy, true story, had the Michigan starter, and he had those. And you couldn't bite somebody else's look. So I had to get the shoes first. So I got the gray snakeskin Adidas with the strap on them.
Okay.
And of all coats, Ohio State.
Yeah. Wow. But the navy and yellow to me is like that's the best one. I'm so happy these came out. I'm trying to look for like the original ones. It's tough to find, obviously, but these such a good retro.
Yes, indeed. Well, I appreciate the love. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks so much, and thanks so much for all you've done for sneaker culture. Honestly, you guys influence
Thank you.
To this day, the new Hirachis are still dropping in the black socks, and everything that you guys did, it stays the test of time, and props to you guys for real.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Have a good one.